Welcome back, everyone. In the last video, we created this user interface here, and now we have to write the code to make it work. Before we do anything else, let's run it on the simulator real quick here. Our build succeeded, and the simulator comes up. And we have our nice little interface here. The button clicks, and you can type in the box here, but it doesn't do anything, not surprisingly. So let's stop it and make it do something. Let's take a little detour first. I'll show you an advanced feature because I made a spelling error here. Not that Xcode is going to care, but I misspelled label here. And I'd like to change that just to be neat. But anytime you change something, once you've added it, you risk breaking the code. And so I have to change this everywhere in the code that it might appear. And when we added our connections here, what I didn't show you is that here in the implementation file, there were also some entries made. Here's question label, and I think, yeah, here's question label. So we need to be careful that if I change how this name is spelled, that we don't break something. Well, fortunately, we have some assistance with that. If I right-click and choose refactor, now refactor is means doing exactly what I am proposing here, changing things without breaking something. I don't want to get a B+ in spelling and an F in programming, so I want to make sure I do this without trashing my code. So let's just click rename. And we get a little prompt here, and I will correct the spelling. And then we get a preview in which Xcode finds all the changes that it had to make so we can review them. So the old part is on the right and the new part is on the left. And in our header file, here's the change. That's fine. We look in the implementation file, and the appropriate changes have also been made. And in the XIB file, now don't panic, this is XML code, and for the most part you won't have to deal with it. That's what the graphical editor is for. But this was the result of creating our user interface layout. And this just means that this code has been removed. On the right, the code is here, and on the left, there's nothing. And it hasn't really been removed. It's just for some reason the automation relocated it. So if I scroll down here, we see it's been replaced down here. So it's been replaced with the correct spelling, and it's just at a different point. So everything's fine. So I'll click Save, and now we have the right spelling, and let's try running it again to make sure nothing broke. Build succeeded. Here's the simulator, and we're good. So let's get down to the business of actually writing the code now. All right, let's turn off the assistant editor to give ourselves some more room. Now, to get started, I'm going to ask you to basically type stuff in out of the book. Now, you can find this code online and cheat, but please don't, because the process of typing in and entering code is very well assisted by this programming environment, and that's what I want to get used to, what the feel is of entering code, and learn the ways that it assists you, and in general get the whole process into your muscle memory. So please bear with me. We'll do more interesting things later, but I actually think this is pretty interesting. So we're going to start by adding a method right after these keywords here. And I'm going to make a little space here. And in Objective-C, a public method, that is one that can be accessed by things outside of the class, is started simply with a dash. And now we'll type a space, open a paren. We have to type the return type, which in this case is void, which means it returns nothing. Now note that as soon as I type a V, the code completion help comes up, and it tries to guess by its knowledge of Objective-C and the existing symbols and classes and all that stuff. It tries to guess what I'm trying to type and gives me some choices. So it kind of timed out here, so let me start this again. If I type a V, it's guessing I want to type void, and it's correct. So all I have to do is hit return, and it has completed that word for me. I'll close the parenthesis, and now we're going to call this method generate. And code completion can help me here because this is a name I'm just making up now. So generate. And now we'll open our braces to contain the code for this method. If I type in a left curly brace and hit return, it supplies the matching brace and starts an indent for me writing code. Now, there are two conventions for curly braces. One is to start it on the line after the name, on the same line as the name rather, and the other is to start it on the next line. Both will work with this editor, and I frankly, for my own style, go back and forth between them depending on circumstances. So you probably want to try to be consistent, but it's not a big deal. And to underline that point, I'll be inconsistent with the generated code and use this style. So let's start by writing a comment, and we're going to pick two random numbers for our arithmetic quiz. So pick two numbers between 1 and 9. So to save time, I will probably omit comments pretty much from what's in the book, but I would suggest that you type them in. So the first thing is we're going to declare an integer a. So type int, and you see it's trying to help me, but for a three-letter type, it's no big deal, so I'm just going to ignore code completion. A. And we'll initialize it to 1 plus, and there's a particular random function that basically returns a large random integer, and that is called arc4random. And as we start typing this, it kind of guesses what we're going to do, and that's exactly what we want. So I'm hitting enter, and to get a number between 1 and 9, I'll just return the remainder of dividing by 9. So that should give us an integer between 1 and 9. And that's done by the % sign and a 9. And if you're not familiar with some of these operators, you can ask me later. But for now, just do what's given here. And now we're going to create a number b, another random number, and I'm just going to cheat by copying and pasting code here since it's almost identical. So I'll just put that in and change this to a b, and we have our first two statements. Now we're going to declare a sum and calculate it. So int sum equals a plus b. Pretty straightforward so far. And now we'll create the text for our question. Now in the book, the variable is called, or rather the object in which we're going to put this is called label, but I called it question label. So let's start typing that. And it guessed it right away as soon as I typed Q. So I'll just hit return. There's my question label. Now I have to use an attribute of that object, which is the text it contains. So if I type dot, and I'll just arrow key down to text, hit return, and now I have the text. And now I have to do something which is going to look kind of weird if you're not familiar with Objective-C, and if you're not, we'll get more familiar with it later. We're going to start with the NS string class. And tell it to create an instance of itself initialized with the formatted string we're going to provide. That's kind of a mouthful, but I'll just do it. I'm not going to try to explain it now. So we are doing string with format, and let me be really lazy and just scroll down until I see it. And there it is. Hit return. And this is a message to the NS string object that takes arguments. And you see in that that blue shaded area, it's prompting us to provide those arguments. And the argument is going to be a string constant. And first of all, the formatting string. And if you're familiar with C, this is going to look a little bit weird. String constants are preceded with an @ sign. So we type @ open quote, and then type in the formatting string, which is %d. That's a placeholder for one number, and then a plus, whoops, and plus, and %d equals, and then I close the formatting string, and I have to give I have to give the arguments for those placeholders, which are just the A and B variables. And then close that and terminate the statement. And now we're going to store our answer in the label tag. So question label, return, dot, I'm going to arrow up here, tag equals sum. So I'm really going slow because I'm explaining all this, but once you get familiar with code completion, I think you can see that you can enter code really quickly. Okay, now we have to go down to this method that's called when the interface loads, and just do a call to this method that we just generated, and it's done like this. And I'm not self just means this object that we're presently messing with. And once again, I'm not going to add elaborate explanations. I'm just showing you the mechanics of entering code right now. So we're calling generate. And looky here, the code completion knows about the symbol that we just created by defining this method. So I just have to hit return, and it adds that for me. And you'll also note, if you're looking at the book, that I did not add the calls to the NSLog function that it talks about when it's taking you on a tour through some of the iOS functionality. Okay, now if we scroll down, we find down here a skeleton, a template, if you will, for the action that will take place when we hit the submit button. This was generated for us when we did the click and drag stuff that you saw in the other video. So let's just fill this in. And again, from the book, omitting comments, we create an integer called num. And the book calls this answer, and if you recall, I gave it a longer name and called it answer field. But if I type A, I just had to type A, and it already supplied it for me. Cool. So return, and the attribute of that answer field we want is text, so I type dot, and it's well familiar with the attribute, so I just scroll down one, hit return, and now I send it the message int value. That is, there's a text field there, and I'm translating that into a numeric value. So if I type I, N, T, and it already figured out what I want. So I hit return, close that, terminate the statement. Okay, now I will go on. We create a local variable for an alert message, and that is of type, let me scroll up, scroll a little bit here, UI alert view. And I typed 3 letters, we've already got it. So I will call this alert. And I will continue to type out of the book here. If num is equal to question label dot tag, open curly, return, then we have the correct answer. Alright, this video is getting a little long, so I think I will pause here and then continue on the next.